Hello. Get this rolling. Hello, everyone. Oh, I was gonna have my phone. I'm gonna plug it over here. It's fine. It should be charged enough. Sorry about that. Hello, welcome to Finding Clarity. It's Leah. I'm so excited. Oh my God, I'm so excited. Welcome to today's masterclass. This is a very special event that I was super inspired to do. I've been thinking about doing this for a while or something like it for a while and just had to. I cannot even explain it in any other way except for to say it just had to happen. So I am hoping some people are going to be able to join me live. I will be available to take questions, and I am going to be bringing you some information that will hopefully help answer some of the questions you've been having about when I talk about shadow work and what that means and why in the world would you ever want to do that. So happy Monday. Welcome to Finding Clarity with Leah. And let's just take a minute. And get centered. So you can go ahead and place your hand over your heart. Maybe place the other hand over that and close your eyes for a second. Take a deep breath. Feel your hands lift and as your rib cage expands, as your lungs open, and then exhale. Settle into your body, settle into this space. Inhale again. And as you exhale, this time really feeling into that rhythmic thump, that beating of your heart within your chest. Bring your awareness into that space. Connecting to your heart, and imagine, if you will, an opening, like a door opening or just an entryway, and watching it expand, getting bigger and bigger, and just allowing yourself space to be open, to be receptive. And then bring your awareness all the way down into your seat, to the place where you connect to what you're sitting on, the base of your spine. Bring all of your awareness down in there. You can drop your hands, just really focus in on that spot. Take a deep inhale into that space. And exhale, committing to presence, committing to be here today, and to being open to whatever comes through. So whenever you feel ready, go ahead and open your eyes. And I see somebody's on. So if you cannot hear me, please let me know. Oh, there it is. Yep, sound is working. I just want to double check before I sit here and go through everything. So let me just start out by saying, hi, I'm Leah, for those of you who don't know. And I am hi, Marnie. Thanks for being here. I am a registered and trained yoga instructor. I am a trained meditation instructor. I am a transformational coach. I am a Reiki healer. Thank you, Marnie. I am a intuitive healer, channeler, all of these things. But what has really worked for me, what has really spoken to me, is shadow work. And it came to me really with that name over 2 years ago. But when I look back at the history of my own personal self-help journey, it's always been shadow work that has attracted me. I have been a fan of stuff like that for a long time. So I started teaching shadow work over a year ago, or around a year ago, and doing groups, small groups, doing different kinds of classes, working with people one-on-one. But this is the first time I've done anything like this. So I'm really excited. And I kind of want to just talk about what it means. We're going to talk about shadow, what that means. Yes, I am the self-proclaimed shadow queen. I have my crown here, but I didn't put it on because it's going to be a little bit longer than my usual live, and it's uncomfortable. I need some more crowns. I need like a beanie that looks like a crown. That would be really my vibe. But it sounds like, okay, so when I talk about shadow, I love that because for me, like I've always been kind of a fan of the macabre and I like, but I know for other people it might be like, oh, like that sounds like a horror movie or like a nightmare. Like, why would you ever want to do that? And although I will tell you, shadow aspects and shadow work, it can very much come through nightmares, but that's like a whole other masterclass. Okay, so that's not happening today. But I'm reminded of one of my favorite movies growing up. And like, give me some hearts or likes if you guys were fans of The Neverending Story. I loved it. My father took me to see it when I was a kid when it came out in the movie theater, and it scared me. We had to leave. Like, I couldn't handle it. That happened to me all the time when I was little. So when I got a little older, like I got really obsessed with anything that scared me when I was younger. And there's that part in the movie where Atreyu has to go through some gates to get to the oracle so he can figure out, you know, the answer to the question. So one of the first gate is like these statues and they shoot lasers out their eyes and you have to be laser focused. You have to kind of white knuckle it. You have to keep your eye on the prize, put your head down and just go. Just go. Don't even stop. Don't even hesitate. Just run. And I think most people can really identify with that. That feels kind of easy. It can be really challenging and a lot of us get sidetracked or whatever. But when it comes to getting something done and to getting through a big challenge, the idea of just head down, go can really feel okay. Like I can handle that. But then he makes it through and everybody's excited. Yay, he made it. And the old man who took him through it, yes, Marnie, is like one of my favorites. He's like, no, you don't understand. Now he has to go to the magic mirror gate. And I think he's talking to the dragon. It's like, what? What's the big deal? It's a mirror. No big deal. Who cares? And he's like, no, you don't understand. When you go to the mirror, you're faced with your true self. Like, okay, so, and he says, when people are faced with their true selves, kind people find out that they're actually cruel. Brave men learn that they're actually cowards. And when faced with their true self, most men run away screaming. Like, okay, that sounds a little bit dramatic, but that to me is like shadow work, right? Like really facing the mirror and looking into what it is in there that would have you running away screaming. The good news is you're not going to run away screaming because that's not how this actually works. But that's kind of what it reminds me of. And so now you're like really going, okay, yeah, no, I don't want any part of that. Like, what are you talking about, Leah? That sounds crazy. Why would I ever do that to myself? Like, why bother? Especially if you feel like, I'm okay. You know, I'm good. I'm making it. You know, I get up every day and I do my job and I get done with my job and I, you know, hang out and survive day to day. And I don't really feel like anything's wrong. And I'm not really mad or sad. And I'm not really that happy, but I'm not definitely not feeling like I have to go look in a freaking mirror. Like, what? Why would I even look at such a thing? And is that even for normal people? Like, is that even something that a normal person would do? Or is that just something like you guys who just do like your yoga and your meditation and you've been at this for a long time around the block of the self-help stuff? Is that your jam? Or can like regular people do this too? Are they capable of that? So we're going to answer all those questions today and then some, hopefully. But I want to start off by kind of dispelling um, some whatever. First and foremost, let's talk about what is shadow. So defining shadow would be anything that's in the dark, right? Anything about yourself that you deny, suppress, and repress, things that you don't look at and things that you don't acknowledge. And some of these things on the surface level, and we'll talk about this in a little bit too, we'll go a little bit deeper in this, are things that you are aware of, but you just choose not to really give much attention to, or you kind of like choose to pretend like you don't know. And then there's underneath that, there's a lot more. There's a lot more stuff that we've denied, suppressed, and repressed over a lifetime, right? So that's what shadow is. So what is shadow work? Well, shadow work is essentially taking all of the shadow and learning to love it. There's really two elements to shadow work. If we break it down into the basics, it's see it, number one. Number two, love it. So that's it. We're done. Class is over. Just kidding. That's really like baseline because it's very complicated in the way that there's a lot that goes into all of that. There's a lot of elements and parts and ways to do these things. And this is, I've come up with a lot of really great stuff to do this is. But really the thing with shadow work, the key is that second part, the love it, the learn to love it. Because without that, it's just another reason to be mad at yourself and to hate yourself. The work part of shadow work is not the witnessing of the aspects. It's the learning to accept them and love them. That's the work part. And the intention of shadow work is to love. It's about love. It's not about change. Kind of. We'll get into kind of later, but it's not about, I really want to change myself because I don't like myself the way that I am. So I'm going to go do some shadow work with Leah so that I can be a better person. Like, yeah, okay, that's admirable. And you may get to a place where some of the compulsive behaviors that are a result of unintegrated shadow, which we're going to get into in just a minute, will dissolve as a result of doing your shadow work. But when you come at it from a place of, I hate this about myself and I just want it to go away, I keep kicking my table. That's not the energy from which shadow work needs to be done. So a lot of what we do is just getting to that place where you can get ready to just embrace and love yourself. And yeah, actually, I think that there's, I can't remember with the Gene Keys thing, Marnie, what the gift in that is, but I think there's a lot of gift in shadow as well, but we're not going to get into all of that. That's a whole other masterclass too. So really what shadow work is about beyond even self-love, or maybe before self-love is a better way to say it, is this deep self-acceptance. Then ultimately you can get to the self-love. But really what it's about is a choice, okay? Bringing a choice back into your life. You cannot white knuckle your way to self-love. You can't just make it happen there's some great supportive practices out there. You know, we can do our gratitude practice, which I'm going to get into in just a second. We can do our affirmations and our mirror work. We can do meditation and we can do yoga and exercise and things to, try to white knuckle ourselves into self-love. But when you just add on those extra, I call them supportive practices because they really support the deeper work. But when you just add them on without the shadow work, it's kind of like painting over a painting that you didn't like. Like if you had a canvas and you painted it and you didn't like the painting and you just went, well, I'm just going to paint over all of this old painting. The old painting is still there. And if somebody had the talent to remove paint, they could find it. It's just, you just painted over it. When you do that with your pain, with your issue or whatever it is, the shadow aspects of yourself that are unintegrated, and you just add these practices on top of it, we're kind of destined to fail in a lot of ways. We procrastinate. We will make up stories about why we can't do it. We will make excuses for why we can't do it. And we will ultimately just stop showing up and return to our old patterns because that is still under there. And so those practices don't really work without something deeper, the shadow. It's also kind of the comfort zone in a lot of ways. It's not, and it feels safe because it's familiar. Comfort zone does not equal good or happy in any way, shape, or form. It just equals familiar. And familiar in a lot of ways for most of us in our adult life feels very safe because that's what we're used to. And doing something unfamiliar or new can feel a little bit scary and bring up a lot of triggering things. And so it's challenging, it's difficult, but it's a perceived safety. It's not safe. In a lot of ways, that's very miserable. So when we have to shine the light, basically, we shine a light onto the shadow to learn to accept it to learn to embrace that part of ourselves. When you commit to finding what's there, it will often bring about change. But again, we can't come from the intention of wanting to change, because that is coming from intention of a dislike for the self, right? So it has to come from a place of desiring to love. It all comes back to an intent to love. It's such a weird paradox. Like, you want to change yourself and you want to, be better or whatever, but you have to come at it from a place of, I just want to love and accept myself for it to actually be successful. And then those supportive practices don't feel like a white knuckle. Then you can go and do your affirmations. Then you can go and sit in meditation and really feel the benefits and the effects of why those things work. By the way, if anybody has any questions, feel free to pop them in the comments. It may not show up on my laptop, but if it shows up on my phone, it'll be a little bit delayed, but I can totally answer questions as they come up. Hey, hi, Molly. Welcome. Thank you for being here. So I do want to kind of just touch on gratitude for a second, because gratitude is so super, super important to me. Like, it has been a life changer, and I still continue to learn more and more about gratitude, how to do it, new ways to do it, how to incorporate it into your day. And I teach it to all of my clients. First and foremost, you must have a good, solid gratitude practice. And I believe it is an instant vibe raiser, and it will shift things in your life on an immediate level. And it will create space for you to find new things to maintain that vibe. So what happens when you have a gratitude practice is you have this really great moment where you're practicing your gratitude, and then you go back into your life and it stays in that moment, but you're back in your life. And all those other triggers and things that the unintegrated shadow influences will take back over, and the gratitude is left in the practice that you did at whatever time you do it during the day. But having that moment, having that gratitude practice kind of as a base, will help you create the space in your life to find other things to help expand those moments. Like shadow work, of course, but bring you into new practices. So you change your vibration. It takes time, but I will digress. Again, I could do a whole other masterclass all about gratitude. Seriously, like maybe even like an 18-part series about gratitude. That's how big it is. That's how important it is. And that's how much I live it. But that's not today. So gratitude alone is still not enough without the shadow work. That's all I'm trying to say. So I hope everyone is clear on what actually shadow means. Deny, suppress, repress the parts of ourselves that we do not see, but they do affect the rest of our life. And we kind of understand maybe a little bit about why we might want to do the shadow work, which is where we learn to see and love those parts of ourselves. So I kind of touched on the reason, which is really what? It's self-love. And that's kind of probably not a good enough reason for most people, to be honest. Like, what? First of all, it feels a little indulgent, and it may be a little bit too broad. Like, oh, self-love, la, 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 let's all hold hands and sing kumbaya. Yeah, no, thank you. Or maybe unattainable. It's just not something that's happening for me. I'm not going to self-love. That's weird. Or it's a little bit culturally, socially unacceptable to really, truly love yourself, right? Like it's conceit, or like it's some kind of egoic thing, right? And I know a lot of us who are already kind of in the whatever with this whole self-work, inner work world know that that's not really what it is. But I think there's still some deeply held collective beliefs that say that is what that is. And until we examine those, by the way, that shadow work, then they will influence what we do and our decisions about it. So how about, instead of saying we want to love ourselves, we just say we want to accept ourselves, fully accept and embrace ourselves exactly the way we are. And okay, cool beans. How does that help me? Like, why does that improve my life? So what happens with what I call the unexamined shadow aspects? When we do our shadow work, we essentially find shadow aspects, parts of ourselves that are shadow, that are hidden, and we bring them to the surface and acknowledge them. We learn to witness them, we learn to embrace them, honor them, and love them. Well, what happens to those things that are unexamined, the parts of ourselves that we're not seeing, denying, suppressing, repressing? They show up in what psychologists call compulsive behaviors. A lot of times you can call it that. I like that. Could these things be from my childhood that I don't like? Absolutely. Most shadow comes from childhood. And it isn't just things that you don't like from your childhood. Sometimes it's just an interaction that happened with an adult when you were a child. They said something. Children do not have the ability to question what they hear. They're literally not capable of it yet. It's just like trying to teach a 3-year-old algebra. Their brains just can't get that idea. They believe everything they hear. So if you tell a child they're bad at something, they will believe it, and they will believe it for the rest of their life. So if someone at one point in time in your life told you you could not do something, you still believe it somewhere. And that is what a lot of shadow work is about. Thank you, Gail. So happy to see you here. It's a little bit different than inner child work because it brings it more into now. So compulsive behaviors and addictions are not quite the same thing. Addictions are really things that can ruin your life or are ruining your life and making your life unmanageable, that you have no ability to manage. And yes, it is sad, Kathy. And it's just the reality for all of us, honestly. Like, I don't think there's anybody who got out without something. I don't care how perfect your parents were. You had a screwed up teacher or a babysitter at some point. You know what I mean? Or you went to church and somebody said something crappy to you. Like, kids just aren't, you had a grandparent or an uncle who was a jerk. Like, nobody got away without having somebody put a shadow into them. And that's just the facts. But that's our choice to work on or not work on, right? That's what I like to talk about. We all have choices in this. So addictions are things that are really ruining life on a massive scale right now. Things that like take all your money or take all of your time or cause you to lose your job, cause you to lose your family, things like that, you know. But compulsive behaviors are things that could be addictions for some people. Nuns. Nuns create all kind of shadow, which is maybe ironic. I don't know. Irony is a weird word. But these things, compulsive behaviors are done unconsciously. They're done without awareness. They're done without, you know what, there may be some awareness, but it's an awareness of, I know this bothers me. I know this bothers this person. I know this hurts my body. I know that this behavior isn't good for me, and I don't care. I'm going to do it anyway. And that kind of a thought goes through your head so fast, it's not even a thought as much as it is just a part of who you are. So sometimes it hurts yourself. Almost always they hurt yourself, and sometimes they hurt other people. So I'm going to give you some examples. These are by far not the only examples. Yes, absolutely, Gail. This work, if not, either way, if not done and then when done, does affect you physically, mentally, and spiritually. Absolutely. All of those things are tied in together. And yeah, it's amazing how much doing this will affect you on the physical level and how much not doing it has been affecting you on the physical level. So let's start with the first. My favorite example of an unintegrated shadow showing up for you would be in consumption. This is the easiest because it's so obvious, and I can't think of anyone who doesn't have at least some level of this at some point in their life. So what do I mean by consumption? Well, food, for one thing, alcohol, and some other kind of intoxicant, legal or not legal. And it's not that they're numbing. It has a numbing effect, right? It has a way of taking you out of feeling. I got to stop breathing through my mouth. I keep drying out my throat. And I'm not saying you can't drink. I'm not saying there's no more wine and shadow work. Like, you can't have your glass of wine. What I'm talking about is this unexamined unconscious habit or a misperceived need for this consumable item to help you get through the day or get through the evening. And it's just kind of this unconscious reach for it every day or most days or every weekend, whenever it is. And alcohol could just as easily equal ice cream. You know what I mean? Like it doesn't have to be alcohol. Food is just as it could be a bag of chips. Um, the point of that is that it's something that you're not in total control of. You may think you are, you may think it's your choice, but there's unconsciousness behind the behavior. Even if you think in the moment, no, I'm making this choice. I'm choosing to do this, even though I know that it hurts me and it hurts these people who love me. I'm going to choose to do it anyway. There's some unconsciousness to that. So that's the easiest one. And I'm sorry, but who here cannot say that they haven't had an issue with consumption? Like, I don't know. Like, come on. Everybody has. Another big one, and this is another one that, again, I think everybody can relate to, is that we lash out at people. We lash out at the people that we love. So think of the example of the mom who's just so sweet. And she does everything for everyone. And then she is pushed to her limit and she's just like, ah! And everybody's like, what was that? Well, it's boundary issues for one thing, but another thing, it is a unexamined shadow aspect from a long line of situations that were not handled. Or picking a fight with someone you love. It could be your friend, and it could be your spouse or your partner or your loved person, and you just don't know why, but they just irritate you right now, and you're just annoyed, and then you're just going to nitpick them, and you're going to push those buttons that you know how to push because it's somebody that you live with or that you love and know really well. And at the end of it all, after the fight, after the explosion on the children, after the blow up in the office or, on the Zoom call, I guess, for work or whatever it is, you feel this like a release, like it's probably unconscious, but it's there. And what that is that you have captured this part of yourself that deeply connects to who you believe you really are or what you believe you're really worthy of. Okay, so that's kind of a big concept that might be hard to understand, but when that behavior pops up from an unintegrated shadow aspect, it's because you've gotten too far away from what you really think you deserve or who you really think you are. And it's important that you get that back because, again, that's our comfort zone, that's our safety zone, and that's our old pattern and familiar behavior. And that's why those new white knuckling, self-love behaviors don't work. You might have that moment, and those thoughts don't come consciously. You're not like, whoa, thank God, I'm back to my old patterns. Wow, good thing, because that was really starting to feel uncomfortable over there. It's not that kind of consciousness. That's just what it is. And you might have a moment where you're like, oh, why did I do that? It was weird. Who was that? And that might be very brief. And then the excuses take over, right? Because the mind cannot possibly allow you to go there. So you might be like, well, I was just really tired. So that's probably it. I just didn't sleep really well, or I skipped lunch today, so I was hungry, or I'm feeling hormonal, or it was their fault. How about that one? It was their fault. They started it. Really, I didn't start it. And your mind will just make up excuses to justify your behavior a lot of times, and denial back into shadow, right? And then what? Then we have to numb out again. Like, oh my God, I'm feeling too much. If those things start to come through, the guilt comes up, the shame comes in. You're like, I have to consume or Netflix or zone out on Facebook or whatever it is to get out of almost feeling bad about something that might have caused me to look a little bit deeper, especially if you don't have the knowledge, this basic knowledge that I teach about how to do that stuff. It's a lot easier to just go grab the ice cream. What else? I got another couple of compulsive behaviors I want to cover, and then we'll move on to the next thing. One right now that I'm kind of struggling with, I don't know if it's just the time of year or what, but like, what about shopping? Like compulsive shopping, that need to buy something that's a little bit out of um, maybe your range, and then you feel like shame about it and you want to hide it, or you get like, you can't enjoy it and you just want to yell at everybody, like, don't touch that. Do you know how much I pay for that? It's like, oh my God, well, then why did you do that? It's an unexamined shadow aspect. And um, yeah, the other one that I love, which cracks me up, honestly, is the self-help compulsion. And I think a lot of us can relate to that one because, that one comes from a place of self-hatred a lot of times. Like, I need to fix myself. I'm broken. I hate myself the way I am. So I need to change. So I'm going to get this book. This will fix it. I'm going to get this course. This will fix it. I'm going to hire this coach. That'll fix it. And then I will be fixed. And then I can be whole and love myself. What happens a lot of times is you get like a little high, you get some new practices, you get some kind of fluffy thing, or you get to get lost in something for a little while, um, and you get some great information. But when you don't get that shadow aspect element, when you don't get that transformational work as well, then you end up going back again to the old behaviors, the old patterns, back into comfort zone, back into shadow because you never looked at it to begin with. And then you're in a cycle where you just want to get some more. Like, okay, well, that worked for a little while, but now I feel like crap again. So what's the next book? What's the next course? Um, ultimately, all of these things, and there's so many more, they all lead to pain, they all lead to loss, and they all lead to regret. They send us down into a spiral of desiring to numb out, numb ourselves to our pain, to our losses, to our choices. And when we can't feel our own pain because we numb out to it, we can't feel joy either. And we certainly can't feel love on any level. So when we can't deal with the action, the compulsive behavior that was caused by an unintegrated shadow, we create more shadow through denial and then numb that out, driving it even deeper into more shadow. And then we get guilty maybe because we're numbing out, we're denying, suppressing, repressing. And then, we can't understand why it's 3 o'clock in the morning and we're scrolling on Facebook and, we come home and we can't sleep at night. We can't, face anything. So, the misery caused by this will eventually lead to apathy. And that just looks like there's no vitality left. There's no vigor. There's no lust for life. There's just content, maybe even to be numb. Like I started today with I'm fine. Like I go do my job. I come home, we make dinner and I drink beer and watch a show and pop a Benny and go to bed, and then I'm fine. I don't sleep well, but get up in the morning and do it all over again every day. I'm making it. I'm fine. But that's apathy. That's fine don't even get me started. That's a whole other masterclass. I could do a whole class on fine and what's wrong with that. But there's no joy. There's no vitality. There's no lust for life. And sometimes what that leads to is this need to change something big. Like, oh my God, I'm going to quit my job and I'm going to go try to find something else. It's not going to work, by the way. That's the same person going to do a different thing. It's still going to be you. Or maybe it's my marriage. Maybe it's my spouse. Maybe it's this person that I live with. I need them out. I need them away. That's their fault. It's their fault. Still you. It's this house. It's this place I live. It's this neighborhood. It's this whatever. And you work to change your external environment just trying to find some sense of life, feeling, vitality, all the things that you have lost because there's unexamined shadow aspects that are controlling your behaviors. are influencing your choices is probably a better way to say that, because ultimately, I believe ultimately we do have control when we bring consciousness and awareness into our actions, but unexamined shadow will um, influence your choices. So going to bed every night, waking up every day in that state is like being on a runaway train with no end in sight. It's like being on a treadmill. There's no scenery though. There's nothing to look forward to. It's just one step after the other. Just keep going, just keep going. So why do shadow work? It's to get off the treadmill. It's to get out of the hamster wheel, man. It's to reconnect to vitality and to learn to love life. Just to stop hating the self and to learn to love again. So I like saying that. This is a hard conversation. I feel like I have a hair stuck on my lip right now. It's driving me crazy. It's kind of a hard conversation because when I talk about that, like, oh, to stop hating yourself, people get like, oh, that's not me. No, that's extreme. I don't hate myself. Come on. That's ridiculous. And to that, I would say, really? Well, then let me ask you this. Do you care deeply for yourself? Do you make choices every day in your own best interest in every moment of every day? Putting yourself first in a way that shows love to yourself? Are your thoughts and the things that you say to yourself in your head aligned with someone who cares deeply for the self? Because maybe you don't hate yourself, but can you truly say that you honor yourself in all situations and in all things? Maybe so. Maybe you're just not your own biggest fan. Most people aren't. There's nothing wrong with that. But that's why we do this work, to become our own biggest fan. Because if you're not your own biggest fan, you're not going to be happy. And when you're not your own biggest fan, you're not going to be able to truly find love or to truly feel joy and love. Gail's room, geographical fixes don't work. You know, there's an old saying, and Grandpa Lee said this too since I was a kid, and I don't remember who started this, but this wasn't his. Everywhere you go, there you are. So yeah, you can move all you want to, but everywhere you go, there you are. And if you take yourself with you and you haven't done that work, it's still going to be there. It may just show up in a different way. About being your own biggest fan, sometimes people think that that sounds a little bit like selfishness, and it's not. It's ultimately the most selfless act you can do, to bring yourself into a place where you're truly caring deeply for yourself. There's no neediness. There's no grasping for love from outside sources when you give it so fully to yourself. And I just want to touch on this for one brief moment, but it doesn't matter what your religious and spiritual beliefs are, if you have any at all. Almost every single one of them has an aspect to it, an element of God within, source energy living within you in some way, life inside of you in some way, shape, or form. So by loving yourself, ultimately you are showing love to God. And what could be better than that, right? So I just wanted to, just for a second, go there. When you get to that place where you're even just on the path towards learning to love yourself, you're not, we never get there. Like, that's not the goal. The goal is to be on that path. It can be kind of a bumpy, kind of a windy, twisty, up and downy kind of path. But just to be on that path, just to be headed that way, learning to love all sides of yourself, not just the parts that you show to other people, not just the parts that you're proud of, but all sides. That doesn't mean you got to show everybody all sides. You know that stuff. Learning to love all sides, even the parts we hide. So who is shadow work for? I would say shadow work is for everyone, although I will touch on who it's not for here in a moment. But it can be for the people who are deep in the trenches of their self work, their inner work, and have been at this for years and are experienced meditators and yoga practitioners. And I really don't know what my child is banging on. We all live with it now. I've been homeschooling all along, but now everybody understands the way it is when you homeschool. So anyway, it can be for people who are already on that path, already into inner work. But even for those who are just starting, who are just kind of curious, who are just kind of like, yeah, I was thinking about maybe touching on some inner work and trying to figure out a little bit about this here and there, but I don't know, shadow work, that sounds like really deep stuff. Well, the fact is, yeah, it will be eventually, but the way shadow work is and the way that it works is that you will only ever see and acknowledge what is ready to be seen and acknowledged. You're only going to get shown what is ready to integrate. So anyway, it's a form of denial and numbing out. Yes, Gail. Oh my gosh. The busyness thing, although some people have that in their design, some people also use that as an excuse. So I talk a lot about the other side of that, right? About the numbing out through lack of activity. But Gail is bringing up a really good point. Another way to numb out is to overextend. And I have been there as well. Because then you don't have to slow down and look, and you don't have to pause and feel. So that's a really good point. Thank you, Gail. So when you do shadow work, and I talk about this exact same analogy with meditation as well, you've got to think of it like a bookshelf. And when you're cleaning off a bookshelf, you start from the top and work your way down. Just like in the shower, people, you start from the top and you wash your way down, okay? Don't start from the bottom up. It doesn't make any sense. So when you're working on your bookshelf, you're going to show up to your bookshelf from whatever place you're at. It doesn't matter if you're already 3 shelves down or if you're at the top shelf. You're only ever going to see whatever shelf is next. And then you clean off that shelf. You clear that shelf. You redecorate that shelf. You organize it a little bit. You integrate, and then you can go to the next shelf. There's always another layer with shadow work. When they start to integrate, you see like, okay, then the next layer starts to come up to the surface, or you move down to the next layer, however you want to look at it. So the people who don't need shadow work are the people who aren't ready to change. I know I said this isn't about changing, but ultimately, that's what's going to happen. Either you're going to just bring more consciousness to what you already do. You're going to bring more self-love and self-acceptance into what you already do. And you're never, ever, ever going to change your behaviors. But just that attitude does change a little bit about who you are. Because instead of being angry and hateful with yourself and everybody else for what your choices are, you're going to be conscious of them and choose to love them. And that's a change. So anybody who is not ready to get off the train, get off the treadmill, however you want to think of it, but stop being the hamster in a wheel, the shadow work isn't really for you, because that, you're just not done. You're not sick and tired enough of the apathy, or you're content. You're content to, keep going every day without vitality, without love. And I don't mean like you don't have love in your life, like you don't have a spouse or a partner or children and a family that you love. It's something different, and words cannot explain it. But if you know it's missing and you feel like you want it, then you know what I mean. So those who are not ready to fully love and to really learn about how to love themselves are not going to be ready for shadow work, and that's okay. I fully accept and embrace that about most people. That's okay. That doesn't have to be for everyone. I hold the deep belief that love is what we're here for. Loving ourselves, loving each other, learning how to truly have that is the whole reason that we're here. And that, for me, is what shadow work is about. So I would like to invite you to take a moment, maybe put your hands over your heart, take a deep breath, close your eyes, I just want to say thank you for being here, and I'm honored to share this with you today. And I'm not going to leave you hanging. I I have a very special surprise, something that has been, again, floating around for me for almost 6 months now. And it has been placed on my heart that it's time. So if this is all going like for you and you're just like, oh my God, bring it. I am ready. I am feeling it. What are you talking about? I put together a deeper dive workshop for anyone who wants to begin their walk on the shadow path. I call it shadow walking. So it's kind of a deeper dive with a group feel. 3 classes. Um, we're going to do them all in 1 week. So it's going to be kind of back to back. I'm looking at a Monday, Wednesday, Friday situation starting in 2 weeks from today. The first class, and they're going to be, 60 to 90 minutes long each, maybe more. But listen, if you're concerned about giving up 3 of your evenings because you've been like, I don't want to give up the time I spend sitting on the couch watching TV every day, go back and watch this class again because you missed what I was saying. And maybe you're just not ready. That's okay. If you are, and you're ready to commit just a little bit of your time to see what this could do for you in your daily life, here's what it's going to look like. Our first class is going to be about the 2 types of shadow aspects and how to find some of them. So we'll do some shadow aspect revealing. The second class is going to be all about shadow projection. Shadow projection is the best way to find your shadows. Holy cow, it is the best. I still do the practices from what we'll be doing in the first class probably every 6 months, and I find things that are still there. I find new things that have integrated because other things have integrated and stuff like that. My day-to-day shadow work, my walking with shadow, is all about shadow projection. So that's a big one. It's super important. And I've talked about it before in another class, but we're going to dive a lot deeper. And then the last one is going to be about integration. Integrating these things happens on a day-to-day basis. It happens in the moment, but there are a couple of practices that we can do that are fun. And there might be a recording involved, and we'll talk about forgiveness, because ultimately, no matter what you do, we have to learn how to forgive. So that is also a practice. And this is going to be, like I said, 60 to 90 minutes each, 3 classes over the course of a week. We're going to do it all in Zoom. It's not going to be here. It's totally on Zoom. It's going to be recorded and then packaged and sold as a mini course afterwards for the very low price of only $199. And what I'm doing is giving a very special offer to anybody who signs up in advance. Now, even if you can't be there on the actual class, if you sign up in advance, you get copies of it, and I'm taking $100 off. So your investment is only $99. Like, that's crazy amazing. And I just felt, I tested it, like, this is what it needs to be right now. This is my gift to you, to spirit, in whatever way. I just want everybody to be able to take this journey with me right now. And when you come on the class, when you're there in the workshop, you will have access to a Q&A section. So we'll do like the class, and then we'll have some Q&A time. If you can't be live, you can send me questions and I will answer them on the call. And then some live coaching. Anybody who's there can take advantage of some live coaching, ask me some questions, take it to your personal situation. Bring it into your life. So we'll learn about it, and then you can go, okay, well, now here's how does this apply to me? What do I need to do differently? Or how does this show up for me? Can we talk about it? And I will do that live on the call for people who show up. Again, we're starting in 2 weeks. And I think that's like the 30th. So it's like right after Thanksgiving. Listen, you don't want to go into the holiday season without some knowledge of your shadow aspects. Like, this is the time to do this. And I think this is like the best Christmas present you could give yourself, or Hanukkah present you could give yourself, or solstice present you could give yourself, whatever, Yule, whatever we celebrate, holiday time. I'm going to put a link on how to sign up in the comments in a minute. I'm not going to do it right now, and I'll do it afterwards. And you just click there, pay, and you're in. It's going to be seriously amazing and transformational, and I cannot wait. I've been kind of working on this for like 6 months, so I'm really excited. And we begin November 30th. You guys, this year has been nuts, like so crazy. The collective shadow is insane. And if we want to help heal that, we've got to heal our own. And we can't heal our own unless we learn about it, unless we open ourselves up to it, unless we become shadow walkers. So if you're feeling it, even just a little bit, you just want to ask me some questions, reach out. That's fine. I will be posting. You get 2 weeks. Okay. I want you to sign up now. Of course, sign up now. But you got 2 weeks. If you just want to think about it, if you want to ask me some more questions about it, that's fine. I haven't set a time of day. Probably going to be evenings though, because I really want more people to be able to attend. And I feel like that's the biggest opportunity for people is in the evening time. So be open to that. Again, listen, it's only 3 times. All right. I'm not asking for you to sacrifice an entire month of your life to this. It's only 3 sessions in 1 week. You can do this. It's important. It's for you. It's for everybody in your life who loves you and that you love. And this special deal goes away after November 30th when we start the recording, and it will go to the regular price of $199 as a packaged mini course. So please take advantage of it while you have the opportunity. I'm going to go post a link in the comments in just a second. And again, I thank you so much for being here today. I hope that this information landed on you in such a way that it will be of service to you. And as always, if you have questions, just send me a DM. I'm totally here. Love you guys. Have a great week. Sat Nam.